Well, listen. If you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help because voters...
Whoopi Goldberg, the undisputed queen of The View, spent years as the show's undeniable force, often silencing dissenting opinions, dismissing guests, and running the show like it was her personal kingdom. But what happens when the tables are turned and the once untouchable host meets her match? In a moment no one saw coming, Whoopi was dethroned by none other than Caroline Levit.
We can't allow on this show to have things said that we know for a fact are not true.
But the aftermath was more shocking than anyone could have predicted. How did a single heated exchange unravel Whoopi's reign? Let's dive into this wild episode and uncover the shocking twists and turns that followed. The day started like any other on The View. Whoopi and her co-hosts riling up the audience with their usual brand of partisan humor and unchallenged opinions. But today was different. It didn't take long for Whoopi to throw the first punch. With a signature smirk, she made a jab at Caroline, implying that her success was only because of wokeness.
I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though. It's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
Without wokeness, you wouldn't even have this job, Whoopi said, adding a snide comment about Donald Trump's supposed approval of Caroline's appearance. The studio went silent. Even Joy Behar, known for her sharp barbs, shifted uncomfortably in her chair.
I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time.
That was so good. So good. In a statement afterwards, this young lady claimed her, quote, on-air snub proves that you-know-who will not be treated fairly in the upcoming debate. Now, do you think this is going to make people doubt whether CNN can stay objective, or is this more the same of, everybody's against me, it's all rigged, I tell you. Is everything rigged?
No, it's their MO. That's what they do. Rachel Maddow said last week, she's like, if the election is lost, it was rigged. If there's a debate, then the moderate...
Whoopi's words had landed, but they didn't land well. Caroline wasn't backing down. While Whoopi's attempt to undermine her was expected, Caroline remained calm. Her response wasn't defensive, it was composed, and with a knowing smile she leaned into the challenge. "You might want to double-check your facts, Whoopi," Caroline said, her voice steady as she prepared to unravel Whoopi's entire argument.
Divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world. We have seen cultural Marxism trickling its way through every institution in this country. The public school system, the higher education university system, Hollywood, big tech, the corrupt mainstream media that I fought against in President Trump's White House are indoctrinating my generation of Americans into hating our country, hating one another based on race and gender and sex and all of this other BS, quite frankly.
The tension was palpable as Whoopi's confident facade started to crack. What followed next was a masterclass in holding your ground under pressure, as Caroline effortlessly tore apart Whoopi's assumptions. With Caroline on the offensive, Whoopi's usual sharp comebacks fell flat. The audience, who often cheered on Whoopi's jabs, began to feel the shift. It was no longer just a battle of words. It was a clash of ideologies. Caroline didn't just defend her position, she exposed the flaws in Whoopi's argument. Wokeness, Caroline pointed out, had become a political tool, weaponized to silence anyone who dared question it. The room was now divided, with Whoopi visibly stunned, and the audience, once a supporter of Whoopi's views, now caught in a moment of realization. As Whoopi tried to regain control, it was clear she was losing ground. She floundered for words, trying to counter Caroline's clear logic but only digging herself deeper. It was a rare sight. Whoopi, the powerhouse of daytime TV, left speechless. She looked to her co-hosts for support, but even they seemed reluctant to jump in. What had begun as a verbal assault on Caroline had turned into a battle of facts, and Whoopi wasn't prepared for this level of scrutiny. The audience could feel the discomfort in the air. Whoopi had never been outmaneuvered like this before. As the cameras continued rolling, the tension in the studio reached a breaking point. Whoopi, usually so quick with a retort, sat frozen, trying to salvage her image. But it was too late. The damage was done.
Live on this program yesterday, Joy Behar stirring the pot of controversy after saying this about Caroline.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
Do you want to take this?
So you cannot be attractive and smart? I will try to give Joy the benefit of, well, thank you. I try to give Joy the benefit of the doubt that she didn't see that briefing, because if you saw that yesterday on numerous topics, no big binder, I think she might have had a different impression of this young woman who held her own.
I mean, you would have to give her the benefit of the doubt that she did absolutely no research or reading about anything dealing with Caroline Levit before she made that remark. Because Caroline Levit worked, I mean, she went to St. Anselm College, she worked for WMUR
Ran
TV.
for Congress?
In New Hampshire, she ran for Congress at the age of 25, put out a very good campaign. She lost by 8 or 9 points, but she still put on a good campaign. Then she was the press secretary for the Trump campaign, going on TV literally every day.
Well, heavily pregnant and a new mom.
Pregnant. Yeah, she's a new mother. And then she goes out yesterday and gives and this, again, this is speaking very objectively, because I've watched every press secretary since going back to Marlon Fitzwater. Yeah, I'm that old. And she went out there for her very first briefing at the age of 27 years old, the youngest press secretary ever, and did a terrific job of
Caroline's composed dismantling of Whoopi's argument had not only won the debate, but it had also exposed a growing problem for the view.
I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here. Oh, yeah. Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job. Yeah. Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason. Because black people couldn't get into colleges. Because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women. Yeah. See, this is not black, Asian women. This is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted our asses to make sure that this was a...
For years, Whoopi had silenced voices she disagreed with. But now that reign was crumbling, and the hey world was watching. It didn't take long for the backlash to surface. Social media exploded with reactions, and soon the controversy made its way to the headlines. Just when you thought things couldn't get worse for Whoopi, they did. The unexpected happened. Whoopi was taken off The View. Now, ABC didn't openly fire her, of course. Instead, they spun the story, claiming that Whoopi needed a break to focus on other projects. But insiders knew the truth. Whoopi had been ousted. The network was no longer willing to let her run the show without consequence. The internal turmoil at ABC reached a boiling point. Advertisers began pulling out. Viewers questioned the integrity of the show, and the producers were left scrambling. It was a crisis like no other, and it all started with a single clash on The View. As ABC scrambled to repair the damage, Caroline emerged victorious. This wasn't just a personal triumph. It was a message to everyone who had ever been silenced, dismissed, or belittled in the media. Caroline had set a new precedent for how conservative voices could fight back against the mainstream media. She had delivered her truth with confidence, and now the world was listening. The View might have thought they could dominate the conversation with their one-sided narratives, but Caroline had shattered that illusion. The media landscape was changing, and Caroline was leading the charge. The question now on everyone's mind was whether The View could ever recover from this. Whoopi's fall from grace was just the beginning of the unraveling. With advertisers pulling out, a growing number of viewers
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help because voters are going to re-elect President Trump back to the White House very soon because voters see these trials that are being brought forward against President Trump for what they are. They are sham show trials. They are election interference in an attempt to imprison President Trump. And the irony in all of this is that Joe Biden and the Democrats and these ladies on The View constantly say President Trump is the alleged threat to democracy, when in fact they themselves are wishfully thinking that President Trump will be imprisoned when he has not been convicted of any crimes. That is the real threat to democracy. Voters see that, and that's why President Trump continues his dominance in the polls, not just with Republicans and independents, but he's also picking up historic gains with Democrat constituencies such as African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and union workers.
Questioning the show's direction and Caroline's newfound status as a media star, the future of The View seemed uncertain. Could the show survive this kind of public backlash? Or would the network finally have to admit that its days of one-sided commentary were over? In the end, Whoopi's reign on The View was brought down not by the usual attacks, but by a new voice, unafraid to challenge the narrative. Caroline Leavitt didn't just win a debate, she sparked a movement. As The View navigates the aftermath of this shocking moment, one thing is clear. The media landscape has forever changed. The question now is, who will rise to take Whoopi's place? Will there be room for more voices like Caroline's? Or is this just the beginning of an even bigger battle for control of the narrative? Time will tell, but one thing is certain. The View will never be the same.